declare we have a quorum. Everyone has consent to the agenda for today. I move for acceptance of the agenda.
For second motion, I would like to add Vice President's comments as well.
As the properly moved and second that we accept the agenda, agree with the ordinance.
Yes. I would like to add onto the agenda under, well, first Vice President's comments. Second, under old business strategic plan, new business public comment, and then, closed session for management.
Okay, I will not entertain putting the vice president's comments there. Under new business, we have the slide for board numbers, comments, that's where that would go. Any board member and all board members have the opportunity to speak under that. There's no need to have a special addition to vice president's comments. I will not entertain that. I will entertain going into executive session. We will be going to executive session for a personnel matter. And what was your other comment?
It was, old business strategic plan, new business public comment, and then one more statement.
We maybe vote on motions for each agenda addition independently.
I agree.
So I'll make a motion to amend the agenda, in support of Mr. Flood's, suggestion that we add strategic plan for old business. Is there a second? Second. Great, all in favor?
I have a comment.
Let's
Let's see the motion.
Okay.
The second thing, and Mr. Vice President, please let me know if I got this wrong, but I believe, you're asking that we, have an executive session for personnel matters. That is, I believe the agenda says that, so it says part of the meeting may be closed, so I think what I believe the Vice President is asking for here is that we add under new minutes closed session to discuss management expectations.
That is something that the president is going to put on the agenda. That doesn't have to have a motion for anyone else. I will be making the motion.
Okay, so do we need to amend the agenda to have that happen, or?
No, we'll just put it on the new business.
Okay, all right, but no, okay, so we can move forward with that, with another motion?
Okay, so I thought we were taking each individual
Right.
item.
So we did the first one already, we added strategic plan to old business. There's a second item here, which is that our agenda says part of the meeting may be closed in accordance with the Open Meeting Act. I believe the Vice President is asking that we add to the agenda that we will have a closed session to discuss management expectations.
Yes, I'll entertain anyone who disagree with that, right now. I should have everyone know this. Yes.
Okay, great. Just to move forward with Mr. Brooks' goal here. So the second thing that he wanted to change the agenda, which I'm happy to make a motion to support, unless you want to make a motion, I'm happy to second
For
it.
new business, for new business, I want to include public comment, but also this text message. So, okay, so under new business, public comment.
I'm not going to entertain that because public comment is under the purview of the president. As the bylaw states, I should have 24 hours notice for anyone who wants to speak for this item unless otherwise approved. I have not approved, no one is asking for approval to speak, so I will not approve this item.
Sir, can I also point out that under the bylaws, there's no section for president's report either. And so we're not gonna allow to see.
President's remarks.
President's remarks, president's report, it's an election director's report, and the board attorney's report. If we're not gonna allow people that pay our bills. This week and why.
Mr. Vice President, let me make this first. You had 30 days to communicate with me on anything you would like to see on the agenda, phone call, or what have you. President's remarks has always been historically part of the agenda, and that will be made by remarks, it's not necessarily reports, remarks. As I stated before, there's nothing, we are a bipartisan body, and being bipartisan, nonpartisan, we don't have vice presidents or minority reports. We're not a legislative body. So again, I would not approve that motion. I'm very happy to approve the other two.
No, this is okay, so
I'm sorry. Tom says I can't hear you speak up. And there's a lot of noise and paper punching.
Okay,
so I just want to clarify, we approved this agenda each month, and we approved it with President's remarks. I feel comfortable being able to do that, especially since there is space in the agenda at the end, board member comments. And so, I think I'm inclined to continue, even though it's not in the bylaws. I'm inclined to continue supporting that as part of the agenda.
May I?
yes, go ahead.
In terms of the president's remarks, it's my belief or interpretation that because the president officiates and guides these meetings, that having a portion of the a line item in the agenda is appropriate and historically has always been the case for decades. That's my comment. Thank you.
We're not going to delay this issue. I have approved those, I'm going to approve the new business and decline the one I have not. I will miss welcoming everybody to our formal board election, all our visitors, I don't know who all signed in. So,
We said that we'll be voting on each item, and then also, I didn't get clarification on, did we say yes or no to public comment? We said no to public comment?
yes,
Oh, no to public comment.
I thought Edwin went down, I thought we got a consensus that we're going to the recommendations, not one of the recommendations. That was my consensus. Yes, I don't need a discussion about this decision that's already been made.
With public comment, as part of
I think, I do agree that our policy is 24 hours, and so I think if we, having guests introduce themselves. We all have guests introduce themselves, and I think we want to.
Yeah, that's where I'm at now. I want the guests to introduce themselves. And we're moving from there. So, we'll take the first row. You can introduce yourselves. Please do so.
Catherine Thompson with Baltimore Votes in the Senate Pacific Time.
Hi, I'm Lysandra Hart. I am with the Baltimore City Central Commission GOP, and that's all I'm saying.
Oh, Christopher Anderson, I'm the chairman of the Maryland Black Republican Council. Here feeding and
My name is Rich Collins. I'm the third vice chair of the MD GOP.
Rick Kelly, just want to give myself.
I'm with Baltimore.
Jocelyn Martin, League of Women Voters of Baltimore City.
Martin Bisco. Martin Bisco.
Yes, Steve Ward, Vice President of Grove Park Improvement Association.
Dominique Three, Terrence's wife and, Senate or resident in Grove Park.
I'm Heather. I'm with the Baltimore Banner.
I'm Sabrina Graves. I'm a staff member here at Baltimore City Board of Elections.
We'd like to thank everyone for coming and those online watching. We will continue with the agenda. Minutes were sent out.
Move to accept it.
Okay.
I move that we accept the agenda with the two additions.
Has been properly moved and second that we accept the agenda with the two additions on the new business. Are there any unreadiness, any unreadiness, any unreadiness?
Yes. So take a roll call vote.
Oh. Y'all need to let me officiate. The motion was to accept. Then we move for those who want to accept. If it needs a roll call vote, we'll take a roll call vote. When it was properly second, so what I'm asking is that those in favor of the motion signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's 4. Those opposed have a right. No, the motion passed. So no need to go into roll call votes on something like this. You have the minutes of the last meeting. We have a revised copy that was sent out today, and it should be in possession for review. And I'm entertaining a motion on the minutes, the revised copy of the minutes. Yeah, the ones you sent out this afternoon.
I move that we accept the minutes.
Second. The revised.
Right.
There's a motion to receive the revised minutes, as the proper second. Are there any unreadiness? Any unreadiness? Any unreadiness? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor of the motion, by signify by saying aye. Those opposed have a right. Ayes have it. Thank you. The only thing I would like to thank the board members, the staff, and everyone who participated in welcoming our new executive director, Mr. Clifford Tatum, to Baltimore, and as our new executive director as last month's meeting. We'd just like to thank you, again, welcome you, and we're here to work with you in conjunction to put together the plan you would like to unfold for the Board of Elections. So welcome. Next we have the director's report. And let me say this, our preferences before we start. I spoke to him. He might have a lengthy report. It's good to know, but he has a report that I think we all should do. So, the floor is yours, Mr. Director.
And so within your folders that was provided by the staff, there is a memorandum from the Baltimore Budget Department that identifies that fiscal 2027 markup is as we requested. And that memorandum is in the folder for your review. And it also outlines the CLS lines that were approved for per our request for the 2027 election cycle. There's also voter registration figures that show the numbers for October 23rd, as of October 23rd, 2025, for your review and any questions that you may have for us and staff as you review those. As for my full director's report, I wanted to provide to you and included in your folder a high-level overview of my first 30 days in the office. here with the Baltimore City Board of Elections. And the report highlights key activities and strategic direction that I've undertaken from the beginning of the process coming here. At the beginning of my first 30 days, I established several objectives that I used to guide my transition and preliminary efforts for joining the board. And as identified on the document that you have under initial activities, some of these were set with specific target dates for initiation and completion, and the majority are initiatives that will continue into the next 60, 90 days, and many will evolve into a short-term, long-term plan that will become part of the strategic alignment, aligning itself to the agency's mission and goals. I'm pleased to provide an update on my progress as of today. My first activities included onboarding and orientation. And during the onboarding and orientation, I asked staff to help me understand the organization's structure and mission, its current priorities, and the strategic approach to accomplishing those priorities. And in going through the conversations with staff, we conducted a review of Board of Election programs and identified who's responsible and accountable for each of those programs. We identified Board of Elections workflows and reviewed documentation and determined whether those documentation can memorialize the workflows. We identified stakeholder engagement and community outreach activities and interaction with voter education and election worker recruitment activities. And we reviewed and assessed operational readiness for the 2026 election cycle. Under stakeholder engagement, I was introduced to a number of city election officials, an oversight body, individuals, as well as community partners and stakeholders. And we've started a series of meetings to start with learning what these organizations do and what their expectations are for the Board of Elections. We have conducted one-on-one meetings with department heads. As it relates to the city officials, I've met with the mayor's office, Representative Khalid Zaid, Comptroller Mr. Bill Henry and his executive team. I've met with board members. I've met with the Democratic State Central Committee through an invitation from their chair, and I've met with Baltimore Votes representatives as well as civic design, Center for Civic Design representatives, and I've also met with State Election Board, the executive director as well as his staff, with the goal of continuing outreach meetings to our elected officials, our city officials, and the other stakeholders who are wishing to have meetings with the office. As part of our process, I've gone through a very high-level leadership assessment, which means I've been talking with the leadership, the leads or managers of each program to get an understanding of the program and what their expectations are for the programs and what their objectives are. And as part of that, we've been communicating about leadership values and our commitment to transparency, equity, service, and emphasizing communication and collaboration. And as indicated in the fifth bullet point there, the internal communication activities focus on program operations, agency mission goals, objectives, and identifying synergies. And not surprising to you and not surprising to me, the Board of Elections has a great staff. And the Board of Elections has competent staff, and the Board of Elections has informed staff and dedicated staff. I'm pleased to say that, and I didn't expect to find anything other than that. What I do see immediately is the level of resources that the board needs to continue its activities, to support and to enhance the election operations within the city of Baltimore. And I believe the budget that was proposed by the budget director is taking us in that direction. And I believe that through continued efforts and discussions with the city administrators and with the mayor and those folks, identifying the additional needs of the office will go a long way in getting us to the services that we want and we know we can provide to the citizens of Baltimore. Through all of our efforts to date, 30 days in, the short-term, long-term goals are reaffirming the mission statement for the agency. And that includes including objectives and developing a strategic plan, identifying and understanding operational shortfalls and filling the gaps, expanding civic engagement, and implementing an effective ongoing communication strategy with our stakeholders. And stakeholders is a very broad term. There's a lot of folks that fall under that umbrella. But I believe, as set forth in my immediate recommendations, that some of those efforts will help us reach out to all the stakeholders who identify themselves as being stakeholders of the city. The immediate recommendation that I have is filling current vacant staffing positions. And right away, I see that we don't have a communications director or an outreach director. We have staff that have been performing outreach and communications as part of their job, but not as their primary job. And through my initial assessments, because staff can't spend 100% of their time associated with communications and outreach, it's not the effort that the board would like to see or that the constituents of the city would like to experience. So my recommendation is to create a communication/outreach director who will spearhead, who will lead the outreach efforts, which will give us 100% effort. The staff that's currently working with the outreach will continue to do so. We're not displacing them from what they enjoy doing, but we're adding, enhancing their efforts to increase the efforts for the city of Baltimore. I'm also recommending a warehouse manager to support the ongoing operations and to support the relocation efforts of the warehouse, as indicated on the budget document and as discussed, I believe, offline with several of the board members. The city has indicated that they are moving forward with funding for the relocation of the warehouse to a new location. That's still to be determined, but I believe we're comfortable in adding that to the record now. The warehouse manager will support our election efforts going into 2026, not to replace the existing plan for the election efforts, but to add on and supplement those election efforts so that as we go through the transition of the election from the warehouse to the new warehouse, that person will be on board and will have learned, participated in the learning curve, if you will, going through the 2026 election cycle to take charge in the 27-28 election cycle. And as part of the immediate recommendation, launching a comprehensive civic education program, partnering with existing community outreach infrastructure and the city's outreach as a whole. There are several departments that conduct outreach on their particular programs on a daily basis. So there's infrastructure there. There's strategy there that we necessarily don't have to recreate from scratch, but perhaps we can piggyback, if you will, on those efforts, or at least borrow those efforts. Leverage, thank you. So that's one of my immediate recommendations. And there's a lot more that I can talk on and on and on about, and as I mentioned to the chair, I believe that it would be good for the board and for staff to retreat, not necessarily leaving the confines of the city, but at least getting ourselves in a position to have these conversations so that we're all on the same page as to what the goals are. Everyone has the right idea and the right motivation for the city and for voting in the city. It's a matter of collaborating. And as Tina heard me say, I'm a big believer in communication, collaboration, and teamwork. And sometimes it's not the exact way that someone wants to see it, but as long as you move in the correct direction, I think that we'll go along with that. And so with that, the second page includes some additional information for your education. It simply indicates the meetings that we attended with Mayo, Maryland Association of Election Officials this month, voter registration activities, active voters, inactive and canceled, the number of outreach activities that we conducted during the month of October, And that's the staff that's been leading and completing those activities. So those activities will continue. The election plan, just highlighting a couple of things there. There's a deadline for us to submit our election plan to the State Board of Elections as of November 24th, 2025. So all of the activities that related to our polling places, our early vote centers, and our drop boxes will have to be included in that plan by November 24th, 2025. This is coming as we have the next meeting on over the 20th, that we all will move that in short order. The election judges, last but not least, the election judges program and outreach team are actively recruiting election judges and communicating with past judges in preparation for the 2026 election cycle. We've made an outreach to a number of internal organizations to support our outreach efforts for election judges, and there will be more information to you related to that. And with that, that concludes my direct report, and I'm open for any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director. Members of the board, if you have any questions, you want to come and ask them. Anyone have any questions?
As far as the communications director, I think you said warehouse, name, are we looking to hire outside, or are we just looking to train internal staff to become either communications or warehouse?
We would post the position, and any internal staff that would like to apply are certainly free to do so. But we would also be seeking outside applications for both the communications outreach, and that's a position that we will create with the state board elections support. And the warehouse position now is on our budget, is on our org chart now, in our budget, so we have the funds to fill that position. So once we get a description created, we'll publish it and start issuing it.
Sam?
Not a question, just, I just want to say how excited I am about this report. So many of the conversations we've had in this board basically boiled down to capacity. We have concerns about how we're communicating about polling place changes, or concerns about moving the warehouse, and a lot of times we run up against just the constraints of what we can do within sort of the roles as they exist right now. And so one thing that I'm really excited about hearing this report is that your first set of actions are about giving us investing in the incredible team we have to be able to do more, right? And so that we can really take on some of these issues we've been talking about. So I'm just really excited about these roles and what's possible and whatever we can do to help get those descriptions in front of the people who can add to the great team we already have. I just want to do everything we can to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Tatum, for your report. I'm equally energized, specifically about the potentials of a retreat for the board to work and learn from you, with Abigail, and staff, to identify ways that we can continue to assist and be able to deliver quality, again, increased quality election parameters and services to the citizens of Baltimore. I want to say that I'm excited to learn about the recruiting, the training, again, of election judges. And I want to say thank you to the teams that are doing it. I would love to be able to see if there's going to be any marketing around that, and when we're going to start that, as well as I know that you all have been working on this wonderful new system. And I'd love to be able to have an update about that when we can.
Do you want to update now, or?
No, not now,
Okay.
not now. In November, I want to be, I want to be mindful of all the due diligence you all have to do. I know it's a significant upgrade, and it's a buck upgrade to what you all are doing. I just want to put that on the table, as a part of the election judge recruitment and training, because I know it's going to be a part of that, and that's going to be very exciting and transformative for you all. So thank you, Mr. Tatum, for this applicant.
Any other board?
First, thank you, for the report. And first of all, I know it's a very speedy 30 days. The question I had is about for election judge recruitment. Do you have, I know that there's a state law requiring parity of election judges between parties. Do you support, especially director, know the efforts for that? And then if you are, I'm pretty sure you are leveraging any groups or political parties for that?
So as the election judges program is ramping up its efforts, the first step is reaching out to the judges who already served to see who's interested in coming back to serve. And I believe that the letter hasn't gone out already, it will be going out in short order. The second part of that is reaching out to both of the party apparatus, the Republican Party as well as the Democratic Party, asking you all to identify your members who are willing and able to serve. And because I do understand there's a parity situation that we need to be mindful of, but I also, having lived with parities, we have to work with what we have. So, but the idea is to cast the net broad and wide, and then work with the folks that need it. But there'll be a plan coming so that you'll see, we'll be able to share what our activities are associated to that.
Anything or one of the things, which you're already doing is partner with parties as well. Creating groups including multiple votes coalition, Dr. McKee and legal women voters. Is important, and particularly the youth program that we have, which was the high school young judges, and you're already working on college and stuff. Thank you for that. And the election plan, will that be presented, or could that be presented to us before going to the state? So if our meeting, our next meeting is November 20th, can we get that before the deadline is going to state on the 24th?
There's information in the plan that you will see before.
It's when the all this is in there, the changes, the drop off, you have those and which is, what only they kind of go in a comprehensive Excel sheet that we put together, so we can look at. They're consistent with all in place, the point of changes for your websites, any of the drop boxes, and, so we have already district. So once you look at that, you'll be able to see what the basic plan is. It's not a plan that I can print out for you guys.
And so I guess that kind of eliminates what the next question is. So Frederick County, I think it is, right? They do a public comment for the election plan, but if this one is just the Excel sheet, I guess there's no need. So they might be getting it right there.
So what you're referring to is providing public notice to the citizens about the polling locations that are going to be relocated.
Okay.
And we can include providing notices of where the early voting locations will be.
Okay.
And then there's drop boxes.
I think what Terrence is referring to, and I think this is something, I don't know that we need to go into the weeds of our whole communication strategy here, since I think, I'm trying to report that at least I heard is that you're working holistically on communications across election judges, across internal engagement, across all these issues. And I think that's the right way to do it, because otherwise we're sort of holding them in the direction. But I think what Karen's talking about is that in Frederick County, they had, I think their strategic plan actually had some, so that's something that we could consider at a later date, as part of the director's sort of broader stakeholder engagement strategy. But I think 30 days in, we've got a preliminary take on this. I think let's take another 30 days and see where we're at, and then we can go from there.
Councilman,
The next thing is actually, I guess, this part falls completely within your house because as election director, which is staff. With the individuals who are currently handling, polling place outreach changes, et cetera, are we supporting them in a way that helps them to do it? I'm concerned that from my limited knowledge of it, that people might be overwhelmed by it. And I want to just make sure that I stand for support.
So the shorter answer is yes. So Ms. Abigail and certain staff members are actively interacting with existing polling locations to get contracts completed and signed. And we've identified the locations that will have to be relocated based on the issues with the existing locations where they are. And so that effort is moving along in good working order. And we don't see any reason that we're not going to finalize that list and have it ready for submission to the claims,
So
to the
what
state.
happens is, if I do have a phone with a couple that I have not heard from, you can still change the phone place even though after we submit it. So there may be a couple who will call, 14 days before one of these changes. But the majority of them have been set, or will be voted on changing several locations in the next election.
What I'm particularly concerned about, not concerned, I don't know if that's the right word. I know I send Ms. Abigail a dozen emails all the time about polling places. And so I just want to make sure that I'm not overloading just her, and that it's everybody who is responsible for that. And that if she's going to work 4 or 5 people on an outreach team, that she is. I understand that's within your house. I'm always gonna stand up.
The email comes to me and then I send it out to my house, send it to the gentleman, for the staff,
Yes,
to those locations.
I'm very attuned to the level of effort that the staff is spending, because it's important that we have work-life balance. And what I do know about the election process and that I've already learned from the staff is their response will be, we're going to get it done, which means long hours. So I'm attuned to how we need to balance that. And if that means bringing in additional resources, the question that I asked Abigail is, will the budget support that?
Yes, sir.
And so that's the approach that I'm taking, to provide us with every resource that we have within the budgetary confinements that we have.
Just last thing is that all of us have expertise in many areas, and we're one of 2 paid boards in the state. And so if we have to be deployed somewhere, I don't think the president and I have a problem with that, or any of the other members. So that's it.
Mr. Director, my question is more, you gave us a deadline to have something about the 24th. Would it be helpful if the board meets on 20th? Move our meeting up to,
The 20th is a good time.
Because I have to advertise it to people, because I don't want to get moved up and forward, because I still have some applications. As long as you vote for it, it'll take more time.
And I think to sort of grease the wheels on that, right now, the locations that are being relocated are because the existing location is shutting down. So it's not an option, so stay where you are. So it's a relocation.
The old location has reopened. I don't know about, the movements and the voters, we have discuss right now, but that's some of the locations.
And just the one thing I just want to make sure everybody's on the, just to recap our conversation about this from last fall. a lot of these relocations are because of investment in Baltimore City. Because there was so much money in the infrastructure plan on for new libraries, new rec centers, et cetera, new schools. Baltimore City is receiving extraordinary investment, and so some polling, because I think there was some confusion when we discussed this last time, where the polling place changes were perceived to be sort of part of a pattern of divestment from Baltimore City. And I think it's important that while it's inconvenient in the short run to be, it's a change for people from the past location. In a lot of cases, what's happening over a couple of years is that we're basically being able to move into a brand new facility, like the rec center in Cherry Hill or some of the other places. So I just want to make sure that even as we're dealing with this disruption, we're keeping the big picture in mind.
Okay. If there are no other questions of the director, I would like to thank you for the presentation. And we look forward to moving on and making sure we are working in conjunction with the efforts of the union. Thomas, are you still on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we're at the point of Assistant Attorney General report. Do you have one?
Thank you, Mr. President. Somewhat shorter than the election director's report.
Okay, thank you very much. Old business come before the board. Any old business to come before the board?
I think this was where Mr. Flood had a request to on the strategic plan, and I can give a couple of.
Yes.
on that.
Yes, well, no, it was actually for you, that so in my discussions with Thomas, strategic plan had the contents of it, what we want the contents would have to be.
Okay, can I make a couple of quick, framing remarks about this, and you put, so, the first thing I just want to say, is that, we have some incredible public servants in, both on this board and in this office. On the board side, I also want to just recognize that we have a number of federal employees, both Ms. Williams and Mr. Collette, who have been affected, three who have been affected by the, either the furlough or other changes in the federal workforce, and I just want to make sure they know, we see their service to both their country and to Baltimore City in this space. And then on the staff side of things, I was remembering that when I was 18, I'm going to be 38 this February, and so the 20 years of voting in Baltimore City for me, and I remember being 18 and come down to the board of elections to get election results for a campaign I was working on, and I remember I came into the office and I needed to get like a weird kind of result that my candidate wanted. And the first thing someone told me was, "Oh, you want something like weird and complicated? You have to talk to advocates." And that I just think for so many people in the city, when they need something that's like a little bit hard on elections for so many years now, that answer has been talk to advocates, talk to advocates, talk to advocates. So there's just so much expertise, so much hard work, so much service to make elections with Baltimore City so long. Ms. Goldman, and then obviously. Mr. Tatum, your work in DC, precedes you and did really incredible things there to work with a lot of people don't know about the Election Assistance Commission and the federal government, but your work serving election agencies all across the country and the kind of breadth of expertise that comes from that. And then obviously your work in Texas gives you some really valuable experience in a jurisdiction even larger than this one. And so I wanted to say that sort of remark about the public servants in this room because as we go into the strategic planning process, there's a lot of, as Mr. Reed was saying, a lot of brain power and a lot of great ideas that can go into that. So that said, the process we wanted to do as a board here is, figure out the things we agree on, and then figure out where we might have perspectives that could inform a vision, even if we don't agree. So, I've asked board members to share their ideas, or things they want to be included. I feel that we've gotten them from Terrence so far. Other folks are still working on their ideas. We can discuss this over multiple meetings, so it's not like we can have this one meeting now, force a quick vote, and then that's the last chance, and this is a conversation we can have, over multiple meetings, going forward, and then, you know, in addition to things where we can organize our thoughts and give the director, you know, clarity about where the board is united, I also want to give everybody the opportunity, even on things where I might disagree with you, to help sort of get different perspectives on different issues on paper, so that, you know, the director, you know, coming into a new city, new set of laws, new set of dynamics, et cetera, can have sort of clarity on the diversity of perspectives and hopefully come up with a plan that, you know, takes what's best from all. So, so that's where I'm at on the process. I don't know if anybody else has any initial things they want to share about, you know, what they want to see in the plan, or how we do this in a way that builds the unity of our team here.
As I stated to Ms. Gordon, our goal is to submit to you some of our ideas for consideration to be put in the plan. And we're asking, like Sam said, we're asking all board members if they have something they'd like to see in the plan. But this has to be a collaborative effort on everybody's part. Everybody has to have a value. And so we're going to submit to you some of our suggestions for consideration to see in the plan. And that should be, we'll start working on them. I think we emailed out yesterday.
Yeah, so,
And we're starting to get those in that we're filtering into.
I would like to add that strategic planning also takes time. It's not something that can be done in a matter of 6 or 8 weeks, particularly what we're trying to see happen here in Baltimore is to transform and elevate and increase in a number of different areas as we've outlined and as Abigail has outlined in the past. I believe that, again, you mentioned, and I will impress upon that, is the retreat. That is an area of opportunity where some of the ideas for consideration can be discussed and exercised, taking into consideration the folks that actually do the work on the ground. And also taking into consideration the feedback and the engagement that we've gotten from our constituencies and our stakeholders. And so that it does not happen in a vacuum. And so what I would suggest for consideration of the board is that we, at the next meeting, talk about understanding what it will entail and the timeline that it will entail, right? Because it's not going to be done in a matter of weeks. It will take time because there are so many moving parts, particularly as we're looking to move this operation and do the co-location, but also have a place where citizens can get to everywhere around the town. So with that being said, excited to hear the plan for a strategic plan, but the process of which we get to a final product that is comprehensive but yet collaborative, it will take some time. Thank you.
Yes.
Regarding the strategic plan, I do recognize the expertise and that you've had respectfully that you've created a strategic plan before, and we have the expertise, you have the expertise. Board members, we set the parameters, we state our vision, and we hired you to do the business end of it, to execute that vision. And I think that we should let you know what we would like for you to do, and then you go ahead and let us know how it gets done. That's how the company runs, that's how the government runs. We're one of the only agencies without a strategic plan. Even the State Board of Elections has a strategic plan. Office of Attorney General, which Mr. Thomas works for, has a strategic plan. We share our thoughts, we let us know how it gets done, and of course, if I'm wrong, again, I tell you, I have told you in our long conversation, you let them know, hey, this is not doable. And I think I've already shared some of the things on the strategic plan, or that I would like to see included in one. Sam, is this the opportunities or, okay. So, when I interview for the job and when I have, whenever I speak about anything, it's always about accessibility and accountability. Top priorities in housing, election services, and reprioritizing those funds. For that, I think that there's open knowledge about the election services, election management. I'm not going to go into that anymore, but the reprioritizing the funds, to include what's something you already hit on, hiring a dedicated community outreach team. I'll send this to you as well. Improving our website interface, and communications and hiring dedicated election judges to focus on parity with both parties within the guidelines of election law. But I do understand we probably forget that we have a dedicated Republican election judge recruiter.
Well, we have, yes, we have.
Okay.
We work as a team. Everybody works as a team.
Yes, sir. And then, but someone to focus on making sure we hit that area of the and that we're, staying within the guidelines, we're meeting what's obligated of us. The second thing is community-centered messaging and outreach, something you've already hit on with, the community outreach director. But I actually wanted to give a chance for Tesla to talk about the website interface, communications and messaging, but that can be done offline. And then, and he has her contact.
I think what Mr. Tatum was saying, I think he's already met with,
Okay.
Ms. Swanson.
Okay.
Resources, so, unless there's some reason for the whole group to.
Oh, no, that was that. No, I was just saying, I said I would, give the person my word that I would give that opportunity if she wanted to speak on that. And then also, providing first-in-class election services with everything. I think I'm pretty open that I have a Baltimore versus everybody mentality. I think that Baltimore City should not come second rate to anybody or anything. If we have other counties that do things like awesome, right? We should find that county and try to exceed election services or the level of election services that they provide. And then the last thing is the warehouse, which you guys are already working on. But I want to make clear that that is not that the leadership here, you guys have been working on that, she's already been working on that. That is us getting the resources from the mayor and Board of Estimates folks to do that. So that's the things from my strategic plan.
Thanks so much for sharing. One thing I just wanted to sort of clarify is that I appreciate all those points of contact. And I'll capture that. I just wanted to, at the beginning, you mentioned that there's some point of disagreement, but I believe what I heard was that we all agree that we're moving forward with some kind of planning director.
Oh, yes.
Before we're doing that, we're doing this process here. So I believe we're all in agreement.
Oh, no. The point of disagreement is the timeline. I don't think that it should be something that is, and I'm sorry that I went down that. I just want to speed along. I think that it is best that you do it while you have fresh eyes coming in. That, within the first, you should not wait until, we're 6 months down the line to then present a strategic plan. You come in, tell us, if one thing we propose ideas and gather them up to present to you, go ahead and start telling us how do we actually implement this thing.
Let me say, and I've had these conversations with Mr. Taylor since he's been here. There is going to be a strategic plan. The strategic plan, from my perspective as president of this board, comes from the director, the executive director and staff without input. That's why we're asking members of the board for suggestions for his consideration to put into the strategic plan. We will discuss that strategic plan, and like, as Hope said, we're not gonna rush this thing down the aisle or try to eat this cake before it's baked. We need to give him the time, the staff the time, and our input the time to come up with a strategic plan that's workable, agreeable with all parties involved and all partners involved. And I think that's the path he's on now. That's what he's doing.
The one thing I want to clarify, so we'll be in executive session, we can discuss this timeline.
So this should have been started to be worked on throughout the meeting.
I just sat through, I think, like an hour, 45, maybe 30 minutes. This seems like, all those quasi strategic plans, so let's, I mean, definitely, and no, not to like obviously have any contention, but to Mr. Taylor's credit, Director Taylor's credit, the long-term, short-term is what I was, prior to getting this, thinking in the back of my mind. And it seems like pending we do the immediate polling early center, all of these other things, hiring, obviously, making these collaborations, civic engagement. I don't know, like, what we can, unless we have like an immediate obstacle, what other things that we can proceed to plan for. But again, we have the time, and we have the ability to, as in this contact John. Some potential ideas, so maybe it's like a template, maybe we can use this, and I think for me, it went pretty much in the right direction, but without like the seeing it.
If I might, the initiatives on this sheet that I gave you will inform us on what the strategic plan should look like. Because right now, I'm talking to staff about programs. So we could summarily say right now, we're gonna meet these 3 goals. And as we sit down with one of the voter registration, the first thing voter registration says to me is, hey, we do this already. We do this, we do this, oh no, we can't do that, we call stuff. So it's an exploratory process that I'm learning, and part of this is leading into ensuring that we're ready for a 2026 election, which is in 8 months. So in all respect, the strategic plan does not out-trump that. We have to be 2026 election ready. And in getting ready, the plan will be in back pocket, in hip pocket, being formulated. Here's what our 3-year strategic plan is, here's what our 5-year is. First year's operation plan, here's what we do. Here's how we're going to conduct 2026. And by the way, which I don't think we do before, but the city just actually updated, refreshed the website for all agencies within the city government. And so we have a fresh look. There's some things that we need to address with it for our own website.
You look at the website right now, it's an old website, but you can go to the beta site on the top of the page, it says the beta site, you'll see what it looks like. And I encourage everybody to go to the beta site,
So there's a number of things that will fall under technically a strategic plan that are already happening. So let's peel back the onion a little bit, and then we'll get to where you want to be, but it's just going to take us a little more time.
And hopefully, 2 seconds. Are you, just for clarity for me, and I think everyone, are you saying then you're hoping to get like a timeline coupled with these specific goals? Or are you saying like, hey, there are timelines that I had in mind that I would like to offer to the director and his team?
That we have agreed as board in February to start a strategic plan, and we never started that. And now here we are at the end of the year, and new director said this is something that we should have started and could have started back then. I'm not gonna, we work very hard together as a board. Our election director died in office. We had a great process.
It was actually in February that we had.
We're not gonna belabor this, I'm bringing this to a close. Just back and forth, we just need to move the agenda. So,
No comment about, I made no comment about Mr. Jones' death. It was February when we had our acting director. And what I didn't do was say, hey, you know what, here are kind of some ideas. I just said, hey, I think we should have a strategic plan. And that's probably something I should at least say, hey, these are some things that I think we should do. But that's what I'm saying. I made no comment at that time in February, we had an acting director. I made no comment to our, I don't know what the right word is, director, emeritus, or whatever, no comment.
let's move the agenda, if you don't mind. Under new business, we have 2 items. Did we? Is that something you want to spoke on? Address your 2 items, Terrence.
Yes.
You're comfortable.
Well, yeah.
Not that you're comfortable, you need to address it.
Yeah, you said you addressed it.
We have board members, comments of the board, members of the board, if you have any comments you'd like to bring forth, floor is open for those
This was
comments.
fantastic. I was gonna actually, quite a few of these things, ask you or try to discuss, you, because I think as a board, we say this prior to you getting here, so thank you. And, I think, as Terrence said earlier, accountability, so please feel free, Sabrina, Abigail, Officer Tatum, if we're not doing things as well, tell us, because it goes both ways, and we don't want to just seem like we're criticizing and poking, because obviously we're working with everything to do that, so that's fine.
And just let me say, as we stated last month, Mr. Tatum is open to meeting with any board members privately. You have to go through Abigail. She she controls the schedule. Or anyone who'd like to sit down, organizations who'd like to sit down and talk to him, he's very amenable to that, to sit down, go through Abigail to schedule a meeting with him. You'll have a meeting if you want to do so. Any comments from the board?
I just want to say, we're here to talk.
Yes.
We're here to support.
Yes.
We're here to help with any stopgap measure. Bounce ideas off, be extra hands. We're not afraid. Louder. As I said, we're here to help, and we're here to support. We're here to advocate. We're here to be extra hands. We're not afraid of getting dirty, assisting, coming up here. We'll continue to reach out and do more. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I want to thank Ms. Abigail for everything that you've done. And I know that I sent you 1 billion and 1 emails. So thank you for that. At least getting open to read them. And also let me know when I'm wrong. So, which I mean, hey, I'm not important, so I'm always get it right. So.
The comment I'd like to make is basically to the warehouse staff, and the direction, I guess, the chair, the director have there. If you have not known, they're transforming this warehouse. And if you haven't seen it, just walk around to some of the new things we're doing, to transform it to a more pleasing facility till we get out of here. So I'd like to commend the staff here at the warehouse to start that process. Any other business before I make a statement? Board members. I will now entertain a motion that the board go into closed session under section 3-305B1 Open Meetings Act. The purpose of the closed session will be to discuss individual performance evaluation standards of the executive director. The reason for going into closed session is to protect the confidentiality of personnel matters. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we go into closed session for the purpose of executive
Second.
Has been properly moved and second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed have a right. The ayes have it. The meeting, now, next meeting date is Thursday, November the 20th, here at the warehouse. Meeting for adjournment. Thank everyone for coming out.
Thank you.
And, the board, I'll let them go on to the conference room and close session. Now,